we are going to be going over my pension buyout. So I mean, you'll see my other videos, but from 22 to roughly 30, I worked for a company that offered a pension. Wish I would have been putting in my 401k, but that was in one of my other videos. So between like 2017 and 2020, I every year I would get a letter offering to buy out my pension. So eventually I did end up buying out that pension. In 2020, I bought out that pension. And the reason I bought that pension out was twofold. One is the interest rates were super slow in April, or super low in April of 2020, which is when I got the offer. I mean, I got the offer in that, few months. And because the interest rates are 0.05%. So we'll get into in a second. I'll show you why a lower interest rate is advantageous to you when when you're cashing out your pension. Now, granted, everyone's got to make their own decisions. I'm not a financial planner. This is just what I did. And I had done the calculations then, but I didn't save them. So it's just kind of fun. We're going to go through all the calculations again. But going back to the two reasons. So the first reason was interest rates were low, and I had known that the lower interest rates got, the more advantageous it was for me to consider selling or buying or accepting their offer to give me cash for my pension. The other reason was when I went through the details of the pension, the only option I had when determining my payout was 100% where I get everything, and if I die, my wife gets nothing. Or the second option is I reduce the payment, and then when I die, she gets 50%. So, and I didn't really like either one of those options. So I did some calculations, which we'll talk about tonight. But real quickly, let me just show you what the deal is with the interest rates in my brain. I tried to calculate it out, but it was too much. So they come up with a number. They get their actuarials together. They figure out the average lifespan, and they have to come up with a number that they're committing to that person over their lifespan to pay out as a pension. So in this case, for the example, I'm saying 144,000. So then they figure out, well, how many years, if I had to pay out if they had to pay out that pension based on the current interest rates, so that they would be able to commit that when you retired, X amount of money would be available. They use the current federal interest rates. So, or the prime. And so what happened is that in April of 2020, it was 0.005% or 0.05%. And so for them to get to this, and this isn't the number they needed to get to, this is just me putting in a sample. For them to get to 144,000, they would have to give me a lot more because the interest rate on that money would be so low. But clearly, so if the interest rates are high, whatever they give you, they can get to this 144,000 a lot easier, because if they give you a flat amount, or that they assume you're going to put it into some kind of investment, they assume the rates, the current rate. And so if the rate's 4%, they don't have to give you nearly as much, because it's going to make 4% as opposed to almost 0%. So that's what the interest rates were so low that the offers were getting pretty good. So between the interest rates and the whole 50% payout thing, I thought it was worth doing it. So I did it. Now, I think at the time I did these calculations, but I figured I'd do them again. I mean, it's good for the channel. I mean, as a whole, I've already done this. So I'm sure there's going to be things we go through where I find out I make mistakes and go just like, oh, why did I do that? But that's life. We all make mistakes. Nothing's perfect. So let's just go through it real quick. So a couple of the clauses in my pension plan, which I was able to find the scanned in document on my 401k page, is I would collect at 65. So the whole idea is, hey, and it was $500 a month. So that's what they were promising me, $500 a month, which I thought was pretty low. But so what I did is I did the analysis real quick to say, hey, what would happen if I took the payout in 2020? So if I took that money, which I did, and slam it into the S&P, which I had to, or I would have gotten taxed on it, even though maybe I should have gotten taxed on it. Maybe that would have been a better rate to go put it in an IRA. Now that I'm thinking it through, I probably should have taken it out, put it in an IRA, and it probably would have been, and then I could have avoided all his taxes. But I would have paid the taxes on it. My tax bracket was pretty high in 2020. So, and not only that, I probably would have had to come up with cash. So in 2020, I got the 60K. So now let's do some simulations. So the first simulation is this last column here is I'm figuring out how much I would collect in total. And the way I'm going to figure that out is number of years lived times the monthly payout, and that gets me my number. So the average age of a male who reaches 65 right now, and I think that's according to Social Security, is 89. So what I did to come up with this $144,000 worth of payout is I said, hey, if I'm going to collect 500 a month times 12, that's because there's 12 months in a year, times 24, which is the time from 2032 to the day I die, 2056, then that's the number. So you'll see that that's 144,000. Now, as I was thinking about this, obviously, and that's true with any annuities, the longer you live, the more you draw down and the better off the more money you're going to make out of that annuity. So I said, well, what if I lived 5 years longer to the age of, let's see, 56 to 61, that's five, add 5 to 8, that's like 94. So, and then I just added the number of years. So instead of times 24 years, I do times 29 years, and my payout's 174,000. So that's kind of the numbers we're looking at, right? If I get 500 a month and I live till I'm 89, or I live till I'm 94, then if I live to 89, my payout with the pension is going to be 144,000. My payout with if I live longer is going to be 174,000. So now my next number I have to calculate is, well, what would happen if I put that 60 grand into 2020 and I put it in the S&P 500, which is realistic. And actually, since if you've already watched that video, 50% of my portfolio is in the S&P 500. So this amount should be in there. So at 2032, and not only that, I'm going to be calculating an interest rate that's actually lower than the S&P 500 right now, even though Vanguard's prediction for the S&P 500 going forward is pretty low. I mean, it was ridiculously low, so I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of back into that number. So I found a website. It's actually this website right here, dinkytown.net.java. And we're going to say, hey, well, first what I had to do, and I went to this website for that, is I said, if I take my $60,000 and I don't put anything in it, and I go and I do it for the next 12 years, which should be 65. Let's see. Oh, wait, is it? Oh, no, yeah, because we're doing this from 2020. So 2020, if I invest it for 12 years, then I'm going to pull out about 167,000. Now this is running the Monte Carlo against the S&P 500. So that's just, that's what they're saying. They're saying from here, my investment period is going to be 12 years. So I don't know why I have 171,000, but 5,000 here, 6,000 here isn't gonna rattle the bank that much. So what we're saying is from 2020 to 2032, that's 12 years, we should have, that's 2020, that's 12 years. How much do I have here? Yep, 12 years. If I put it in the S&P 500, I should have, it said 176,000. So it's actually going to be a little better, but I have put down 171,000, but close enough for horseshoes and hand grenades. So then I'm like, okay, if I have 171,000 and it stays in an investment, which it will, even though I'm going to be collecting it, I'm not going to take it all out at once. So I needed a calculator to tell me that, to say, hey, if I make this much and I withdraw this much and this is my starting balance, how much a month will I take out and how long will it last? Because that's what I'm trying to compare it to. So that's where I use this calculator. So if you look at this, I give it a starting balance of 171,000. I give it the number of years distribution, which is 24, which is 2032 to 2056. It defaulted to an annual return of 4%. Honestly, probably be a little higher than that, but 4% is a nice, I mean, get that out of treasury bonds now, but it's a decent number for planning purposes. I'm going to do distribution frequency of monthly, and I'm not going to increase distributions annually. So if I do that, meaning I'm going to get this number what's this number if it's an equal distribution, but meanwhile it's still earning 4%. So that number came out to 914.91. So then what I do is I take that 914.91 and I do the same multiplication times 12 times 24 to get the total payout. Now, obviously, 914.91 is just, even at a cursory glance, better than 500. So right away, initial indications like, go for it, at least from what I could tell. And I don't have to, if I die, Beth doesn't get half. She gets all this, no matter what happens, unless the market tanks. Like but 4% as an annual return, I think that's pretty conservative. So you'll see my total collection, if I die at 89, is 262 So that seems like a winning deal. Seems like me making that decision so far is working out pretty good. So if I had taken if I live a little longer, let's take a look at that. So instead of 24 years, I want to make this 5 years longer, and it's 29 years. So let's take a look at the 29 years. Oh, it's on the browser. So if you go to this website that I have, this dinkytown.net, and I put in my beginning balance, 171,000, number of years distribution is now 29, same return rate, 4%. What am I going to get? 821.35. Still much better than the 500 that I was getting from my pension. So if I really want to figure out my total payout, I mean, theoretically, actually, it should be almost the same. Well, we can figure it out right now, I guess. We could just take this and do this, Control C, and then we can go in here and paste it. And then this is going to be 29 years, and the amount isn't going to be 914. It's going to be 821, which is what's calculated. And then we'll just take this bad boy, format cells, currency, bang. Okay, so it's actually a little more. So based on this, it looks like it was a smart decision. As long as I'm dying, and if I even die earlier, it's still not a problem because she gets 100%. But if I was dying earlier in my annuity or my pension, I would be in big trouble. So based on what I can tell here from what I saw, it was a smart move. So, I mean, we could get into a conversation. We'll do this on another video. If I didn't do it already, I'll review the videos and see if I did it as part of my 401k. Like, how much better would I have done if instead of getting a pension in 2000 from 1990 to 1990, no, 1989, whatever. If I had gotten my pension, instead of getting a pension, they had just given me like $300-400 a month, and I could have shoved it in the S&P 500. Probably would have been unbelievable. Would have smoked this number for certain. So, not sure how great that is, but my initial look to this is, hey, looks like it was a good decision. If you guys have any interesting comments to put down below, go right ahead. Thanks for your time. Have a great night.